congratulations on baby Reuben. David.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's nice to have his name on record. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak in this debate, and I thank my honourable friend, the member for Reigate, for bringing it to the House's attention. In my constituency of Exmouth and Exeter East, this is rapidly becoming one of the most frequently raised issues. And I think the biggest issue for me is that people that have worked hard, saved responsibly and bought a home in good faith are finding themselves trapped in a system that's opaque, unaccountable, and in worse places, exploitative. Since being elected, I've been inundated. I know that many members will have had the same experiences with complaints about one company in particular, and we all know their name, FirstPort. It is, by some distance, the most problematic housing management company operating in my constituency, and my office is currently dealing with close to 40 open cases with developments that they manage. The stories are depressingly consistent. Residents describe unexplained charges, unclear billing, long delays in resolving the simplest issues, and we've heard many of those today. They send long chains of unanswered emails, and they attend my surgeries exhausted and very frustrated. When my team contacts FirstPort on behalf, we often wait for an unacceptable amount of time, and progress is slow, if at all. Earlier this year, I met with FirstPort's Manager Director along with other members of this House. And I would hope that, Madam Deputy Speaker, you would see me as a chilled-out kind of guy. But I left that meeting with my blood boiling, and I know that other honourable and right honourable members across this House had a similar experience. We asked straightforward questions, and what we received were vague answers, rehearsed corporate language, and no clear commitment to improving customer services. Now, a group of MPs will be meeting with FirstPort again shortly, and I hope that the company has set to work in earnest. I think, on reflection, what angered me most is that many of the people caught up in these issues are elderly. They feel intimidated by the complexities of the system. They are passed from pillar to post, ignored when they raise legitimate concerns, and made feel like an inconvenience for simply asking what their money is being spent on. Yet when FirstPort wants payment, and this is something that they're very good at, their communication becomes very clear, and they are very persistent. In several developments, when residents try to move away from FirstPort, essential financial documents, including sinking fund balances and reconciliation statements, were withheld. And in some cases, large sums of residents' money were retained for months, preventing new management companies from planning maintenance or accounting properly. Local residents' directors in my constituency, Karen Wheeler and David Biller, fierce campaigners, have documented delays in fund transfers, missing paperwork and opaque accounting. And Karen eventually gave up trying to reconcile the final balance because, in her words, the spreadsheets were unfathomable. For her, the cost was about £500, which to many of the elderly residents is quite significant. But my honourable friend for Reigate hit the nail on the head when she said the real issue here is the power imbalance. Residents had no transparency, no clarity, and no meaningful route to resolution. And this is despite FirstPort's own code of conduct promising transparency, value for money, and excellent customer services. And I think we can all agree that that doesn't stack up. This is not an isolated concern, and it's not a partisan one. Former ministers have highlighted complaints from companies such as FirstPort as being consistently associated with high charges and poor service. The BBC has reported homeowners being billed for things like terrorism insurance without any context, while basic ground maintenance wasn't being completed. More than 30 MPs have now written jointly to FirstPort demanding action. We all know this, that the problem is structural. Far too many homeowners are locked into contracts they never chose, forced to pay for service charges for poorly maintained communal areas, with no ability to change providers when these services fail. For homeowners on private estates, the so-called leaseholder estates, many are effectively paying twice, and we've heard that, once through council tax and once through these services charges. Leaseholders trying to sell their homes frequently face long delays and eye-watering administration fees. And what should be a proud milestone, owning or selling a home, becomes a source of stress and financial burden. Now, we've heard as well, legal protections do exist, but they are not enough. The Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act, passed last year, will bring mandatory transparency through, I've got 1 minute left, I'll make my final points. Will bring mandatory transparency through standardised billing, greater rights to challenge charges, and easier routes to take over management. But these reforms are not yet implemented. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, I would like to know why, and I hope that the Minister in his closing remarks will set out a course for when these things will be implemented and what new legislation will be brought in to ensure that these people are protected. I want to finish with this, and it's one that I think we all agree on, that residents under these schemes do not need more consultations. They need action, and this Parliament must deliver.